Hi, everyone, and welcome back to the Organizing to Victory podcast, where we're talking garage politics. Today, we have a special guest named Jacob Lombardo, who is with the Young Democrats of Orange County and the Progressive Caucus of Orange County. He's super young, super active, and involved in politics. And today, we're going to ask him why he got so involved at such a young age with the hope of inspiring the next generation to really hit the ground running with campaigns in 2026. So listen now. Here's our podcast with Jacob. Okay, everyone. So I have a really special guest here. I would say more special than some of the other guests because our direct target are the youth. We want to get youth involved. We want to get youth excited. And that's why I brought on my friend Jacob Lombardo, who's here with us today. Welcome.
Thank you, Lee. It's very much a pleasure to be on this podcast with you, I must say.
Yeah. So I'm super excited because I see you everywhere. It feels like you came out of nowhere. And you're showing up to everything and you have this delightful energy and you're excited to ask questions and to learn. But when I saw you, I thought immediately, you're bringing friends to these political events. Why would someone young want to even step foot into politics?
I think it's really important for young people, especially like right now in 2026, to sort of understand where we are in this moment. This is something I hear very often is, it's just politics. I don't really like to get into it. It's not really my thing. And, if you're not a political science major like myself, or you don't have family in government or politics or some sort of maybe political background, like a political dynasty type, it doesn't really interest you or you don't feel like it affects you. Everything affects us. Everything is politics. Where we get our food from, where we drink our water, where we build our homes, everything and everywhere it's like everything everywhere all at once. It's like, it's all politics. Mm-hmm. So for me, when I hear that from people my age who maybe have never voted before, they don't know how to renew their vote by mail registration. They just say, I just vote how my parents tell me to vote. Those things have such negative consequences, I feel like, in the long term. And then when you become so politically saturated in sort of the world that you made for yourself, it's hard to get out of the bubble. So I think for me, being a young person who's involved myself, and when people ask me, why should I get involved? I mean, it's because you can. I mean, a lot of other countries, a lot of other places in the world, they don't have youth participating in their democracy. The government either doesn't want it, their youth feel disengaged. And I would argue we are so disenfranchised right now, and we are so polarized. But it's super important for young people to understand that everything they do, the homes they buy, whether or not they choose to have children, whether or not they choose to even adopt a dog, like all of it matters. And all of it depends on getting out the vote. It depends on making sure your neighbors know, who to vote for, when to vote, how to vote. And it's such like baby steps almost, it feels like. So it can be like a little bit tedious and like thinking like, I have to get my friends to come to this now after I did all this work to get here. But for me, it's super important that young people know that every decision they are going to make from now until the rest of their lives is going to be inherently political.
So how old are you?
I'm 19.
What were you doing when you were 19, audience? So what was the moment when you had a political light bulb go off, or were you always involved? Like, were your parents super political?
No, for me, no. My mom is a social worker by heart. First one in our family to go to college, and then her brother. But no, my family is not political. My family has political opinions, believe me. But my mom, she never raised me to be political. Like, she was always very like, think however you want to think, free thought. It was very conversational. I never felt, anything I had to fit into a certain box. For me, what was sort of my why and like the light bulb that went off in my head was knowing that I'm from Brevard County. So my high school, Vieira High School, was less than a quarter mile away. You could literally walk to the school board. You could walk right out the front door of the high school and go to the school board. And in high school, I was in high school during the COVID pandemic. So what had happened in Florida, for those of you who don't know, was sadly and so disheartening, when COVID took effect and when Governor DeSantis decided to make all of these reforms and made these lies and these half-truths and these like propaganda machines surrounding COVID, it really took a negative impact on education and public education and teachers and teacher salaries and student work. So knowing that the Brevard County School Board, which had sort of this radical right revolution, especially after COVID, it broke, I think. I think it broke a lot of the A-rated schools. It broke a lot of the trust that parents had put in teachers and administrators and faculty. So knowing that I, as a student, was getting told by adults twice, 3 times my age, what I couldn't read, what I couldn't look like, how I could dress, what I couldn't say in school, what my teachers were allowed to talk about in classes that, they were getting paid a ridiculously low amount to teach and to be there for 30, 35 plus students in a classroom. I mean, I think to me that was my why, was knowing that right across the street from my high school, I had people telling me basically we're trying to control every aspect of public education. So that was my why. That's how I got started.
And you just informed me of this, that this was the birthplace of Moms for Liberty.
It was, yes. Brevard, this is a story that not many people know. I actually got told this by my neighbor. There was a school board member who ran for election, probably around the time of COVID, 21, I think 22, and she lost. And she tried to do the whole Donald Trump thing. It was stolen, yada, yada, at a school board election, mind you. So this is not, this is not the presidency. This is not a Senate. This is a school board election in a county race. And she had lost the election to Jennifer Jenkins, who, just dissolved her run for Senate. But if that helps you realize where we got started here. And it became a thing. It became this thing of we're for freedom, we're for prosperity, like all of these, like the half-truths and the propaganda and the lies. And it was a way to embolden, not only really involve parents, PTA at every school board meeting, not those kinds of people, but parents who were like, I don't really like this, or I don't really feel comfortable with this. Maybe my kid wouldn't like this. I don't really feel, the parents that were, on the, like I'm involved, but like I have a job, I have 3 kids, I have, that kind of lifestyle. So for me, knowing that all of this got started in my home county, when I was 15, 16 years old, and it started on a whim of just one election and then became a whole thing nationally. My uncle, for context for you, Lee, as well, my uncle is a school administrator in New York, in Long Island. And he was telling me that Moms for Liberty just got their grassroots start in New York too. In New York, and Long Island is very red, but people assume New York is like this giant dark blue hole. The fact that Moms for Liberty has been able to expand into this massive quantitative size in such a short time, for me, has really been a wake-up call as to what my start was. And I think why public education in places like Florida is it's beyond important.
Well, to use their own terminology against them, it's a war. I mean, they're literally bussing in other people who are ready to attack books and to attack LGBTQ teachers and to attack teachers that want to use a child's nickname or preferred pronouns, to the point of getting them fired, and that emboldens them to continue to attack school boards and make school board meetings a living nightmare.
Exactly.
It's waging a war on our education and keeping people on edge, which distracts and takes away from our ability to have more profound conversations about ways to improve education as a whole. So that's exciting that you got involved at such a young age because of this threat that started in your community. But why were you not just, hanging out with your friends and just saying, oh, the parents will figure it out? Why did you decide to be young and get involved?
So for me, this is also in part because of Moms for Liberty. I did not have the most thrilling high school experience. I didn't want to do any of the clubs. Not that I was, this big hater. It's not, Moms for Liberty didn't, storm the high school that I was at. But for me, I just never found the high school experience that I was promised fulfilling. Part of that was because of Moms for Liberty. Part of it was because of COVID. The high school that I went to had this really excellent reputation for some of its teachers and for some of its extracurriculars that they offered. And by the time I got there, there was a teacher arrested for storming the Capitol. There was a teacher, all of it, the scandal after scandal after scandal that came out after COVID, after the whole 2020 election, all of it. So for me, the floodgates sort of opened when I got to high school, and I was like, yeah, this is not what I signed up for. And that's when I started the dual enrollment program at Eastern Florida State College. It's how I'm coming to you today as a soon-to-be graduate of UCF.
Ooh.
But for me, that was what opened the floodgates. I didn't have a great high school experience. My friends, they would, go to parties and have fun. They would go on family vacations, spring break, winter break, you name it, all of the thrilling things you should have as a teenager, as a high schooler, especially in Florida. Come on. Mm-hmm. But I don't know. I saw this as such an opportunity for me. I got free public education. And this was before DeSantis had even touched collegiate institutions, but I had free public education. I had an associate's degree by the time I was 17 years old. I graduated with a diploma and a degree. So for me, it was always about school. I liked learning. I'm a political science major. So, this kind of work that we do is right up my alley, but I get it why it's not for other people. But for me, it was always I don't know, I wanted to learn more. I thought it was interesting that, we're living through history, like, good, bad, and ugly, all of it. Like, I was quarter mile down the street from it. I was happening in Florida. It was happening in Brevard. It's happening in Orlando. So for me, my high school experience wasn't great. I wanted to go to college. My mom likes to say I wanted to speed up my adulthood, which I'm now realizing, was a choice. But I wanted to learn. I wanted to like see what was out there. And for me, it didn't always, coming from a single parent household, we struggled to pay bills a lot. I worked all my high school time. I worked at Texas Roadhouse. That was my first job.
Oh my God. Did you have to do the dances?
Yeah.
Did you have to like get on the saddle?
No, they made the bussers. They tried to get us to learn the line dances. They weren't always successful, but sometimes we did have to bring out the saddle. I did the claps, the birthday with the tapping of the spoon.
We're going to do that at the end of the episode.
You know what?
You'll get your taste.
I will happily I'll happily see what I can remember for you. But like, that was my job. Like, I was busy working. I wanted to learn, and all of my friends, like, for what it was worth, I had a great time with my friends. All of my friends, I made sure, that we got to spend time together. I wasn't any version of a shut-in, but I made sure that I wanted to get something out of high school before I left, because I knew where I was headed. Just for my own self-determination, I knew I wanted to go to UCF. So yeah, that was like sort of my wake-up call. And like, that's sort of what pushed me through high school, I would say, especially knowing that, at that time, hopefully it doesn't change anytime soon, but you could get free college education. Like, even my mom was like, I don't know, like, you're really like speeding up adulthood. I said, I promise you, high school is not what they told us at orientation. This is not what we were promised. So yeah. And I also spent my first year of high school doing virtual school. So I was ready to go somewhere, and I had to know that I wasn't going to sit at a computer all day.
Yeah. Well, that's very impressive, especially since they are trying to attack dual enrollment. They are trying to attack some of the financial aid that you would be able to get in order to, get a associate's degree at a younger age. I don't understand why the attacks are so hard hit when so many people like you are able to advance very quickly, and there's a success rate that's proven. But, good for you for getting on the grind, and you're 19 years old. Like, I can't even imagine being 19 years old and being awake and aware, because I look at young people and I feel bad when you guys are so politically plugged in. I feel guilty, almost like the world must have dropped the ball on the opportunity to give you your childhood, because if you feel like you have to pay attention and have to be aware, that's a systemic issue that I feel like is on our last generation. And yet we're so lucky that people like you are at a young age enlightened and want to get politically involved. So where is this path that you see this taking you?
So for me, along with politics, I feel like education for me and politics go hand in hand. After May, I will no longer be an undergrad. I applied for the UCF master's program in public administration. That was my top choice. I've applied for another one in political science, but that was my first choice. So I hope to continue my time at UCF, and I absolutely love Orange County. I love everything that it has to offer. I love all the incredible organizers like yourself that I've been able to meet. You like to say that we're inspiring. I claim it's vice versa. I'm sorry. I'm sorry, no brownie points there, but I do think that there is something to be said about people like yourself, like the people that we meet, like, Unite Here, all of the, Felipe Sousa Lazabale, Eric Gray, Jane Amen, all of these amazing people that, have dedicated their lives not to seeking higher office, not to making this sort of like name for themselves, but they're just people. They're just people who found jobs and had families and got to work and put in what they wanted. And so that's what I want to do. So after education, I work in housing and residence life. That's my job on campus. So I hope to continue that in the graduate capacity. But otherwise, I really hope to get more involved in political campaigns. I think Orange County, yes, it is the last blue dot, like the whole kit and caboodle here. Like we are, I think, one of the last hopes that Florida has to remain as progressive as we can, honestly. But knowing that there is so much more work to do in certain critical races and certain critical areas, a lot of areas, I think in Orange County especially, we make like yes, we voted blue. We did all the things, but there are so many untapped areas that I know just from being here a short time that they do feel neglected and they do feel like they're not seen. People want to know what they can do, but they also need to make sure that, can I feed my kids? Can I drive to work? They all go hand in hand. So I think for me, I look forward to working more on political campaigns. I look forward to learning. That's what I've tried to do my whole life, is learn. Politics is my bread and butter, from someone who doesn't come from a politically aware background or a politically knowledgeable background. That's what I've strived to do for myself, and hopefully for the generations that come after me. But yeah, that's my thing. I hope to continue my education. I hope to stay here in Orange County for as long as I can. So
I'm waiting for you to say it. You hope to run for office.
So that is an opportunity I will consider.
You heard it here first, folks.
I hate to sound so political and so like those guys that are you running for president? Like, I hate to sound like the gotchas, but I mean, that is something I've considered, but I'm also understanding that I have a long way to go. Professionally, just growing up, like you said, I'm only 19, so I have a bit of.
You don't even have any felonies yet. Like our president.
I don't have 34 yet. I'm not even on one. I have to start small. I promise. I will get there someday, and then hopefully, I can make a big stink of running for office, from jail. Mm-hmm. But yeah, for me, I've considered it. I've thought about it, but I've also considered, what other ways I can make an impact. I've seen here in Orange County what it's like when you have people who choose to run for office, like Miritana, like I said, Jane, Eric, Felipe, who choose not to make a name for themselves, but they want this. They want to make sure that our lives are better, that I can afford my groceries, that I can hopefully still get financial aid by the time I'm in, the master's program. So all of those things, I mean, for me, it's a possibility for sure. But I mean, for me, knowledge has always been number one. So I'm looking forward to seeing where I can be of help on campaigns, in crafting policy, like yourself, like you do the work with Commissioner Semrad, which I think is amazing. But it's things like that I hope to push my career for.
Mm-hmm. Well, if it makes you feel any better, a lot of people that are in politics have no freaking idea what they're doing. There's many people that are jumping in just because they want to chase a title. Correct. And they have a lot of rich friends.
Yep.
And frankly, the people that do, I believe, the best type of policy development are the people that are doing it from the heart, that really care and really want to give back to their community. We want to inspire young people to get involved, especially with this kind of conversation. However, being a Democrat's really hard right now. And I think part of it is, the money that comes into our elections seems to trickle down into both parties, and it makes people feel like they're not really heard. And the pendulum swings because I think in the moment of the torch being passed from Democrat to Republican, people are just continuing to stay angry, and whether or not they change their vote to another political party is contingent upon whether or not there were any real life successes that have taken place in that administration to directly impact people. And if not, then people get mad and they cross party lines typically. And so last year we had an election where we went back to voting for Trump, which was something I never thought I would ever see again after January 6th. Yeah. And a lot of young men
who look like me,
who look like you, voted for Trump. Mm-hmm. I can't believe it. A lot of young women did too. A lot of young people, or they stayed home.
Yep.
Why do you think they did that?
So for me, I think this is not a one-word answer. This obviously has multiple factors depending on, what you look like, who, familial background, all these kinds of things like this, that, and the third had something to do with why they voted for Trump. A lot of young men who look like me, which is who I'm going to speak for, and I know a lot of them. Too many, more than I'd like to admit, unfortunately. But a lot of them, they're like the bro types. Like, I hate to categorize them because I think there's so much more than just like the stereotype of like I listen to Joe Rogan or like I can bench 350 at the gym. But for me, I live on a college campus. Like, I know a lot of these people. They are very familiar to me. So I think a lot of them, they saw the Biden administration, which, for all of its successes and failures, I would argue a lot of it was a failure. Like, a lot of it, maybe I wouldn't say failure directly. A lot of it was false promise. There was some massive foreign policy failures for sure. But I think a lot of people, they saw what was on the news. They saw what was happening. Our president was very old. This one's definitely no better, but, they were seeing the clips, the 15-second CNN and Fox News clips of, roll the tape. Here's the gotcha. So I think a lot of people growing up who either maybe didn't do all of their years in high school in a school like I did, who, maybe freshman year experienced the COVID pandemic, who didn't have a lot of socialization, as children because of COVID, regardless of what political side you lean on, a lot of parents were scared. So what did they do? They isolated themselves. They isolated their children. So there's a missing part to it of like, how did you grow up? But it's also the fact that, I didn't see anything get better. Like this argument is what people use all the time is, and this is, this is how it matters to them as well. My gas wasn't any cheaper. My groceries were still expensive, just like they are now, by the way, in 2026, So the premise didn't change. The plot is still very much the same here. But I think why they voted for Trump, honestly, was just because, they saw what was happening for 4 years. We were promised free college, period, point blank, period, which then turned into 2 years of community college and then turned into nothing because, our government was extremely divided and, where they got their donors from and where they got their, these like moderate positions from, they changed and they that's not feasible anymore. So we were ushered in this generation of this false promise of this is going to be generational change and we're not going back. That was how it originally was supposed to be in 2020 once and for all. And then they saw it and they were like, I really don't like this. And, maybe if Trump was good before, he can be good again, which I think is a lot of the mentality that people were experiencing because he inherited Barack Obama's economy. And it was, he's a showman. He's from The Apprentice. He makes these big, grand, these speeches and these tweets and these spectacles. And, he makes sure people listens, which, is not the greatest thing when it's coming from, a convicted felon who's our president, who was on the Epstein list. But people saw it and they saw that, life was better, for better or for worse of how they saw it. They think that life was better and that, this one man and his, seemingly ideas that seem to just pop out of the sky every day or so, that he would make their life better. And that's what they were promised. And once again, America was sold a false premise and a false dream. And
I cannot express how challenging it is, even on the local level, to get Democrats to understand how important comms is for any either for a campaign or for when you are in political power, selling those wins and that story. It's so crucial. Obviously, Joe Biden shouldn't have run again and kept his promise for that. And his entire apparatus of people like,
you should run, you can do it.
Don't get me wrong. Like, I have managed a few offices of elected officials and I do not shy away from being like, no, you should not do that. It will hurt you, right. But I feel like a lot of people weren't doing that to Joe Biden.
Correct.
But, the razzle dazzle show, like, especially with youth, I think people want to blame the Joe Rogan, like, manosphere. Mm-hmm. But then they don't want to compete in that arena at all by investing in influencer development, by investing in communication strategies that are real, where people's eyes are. And frankly, this whole debacle with TikTok is because of the Democrats.
Yep.
Because they wanted to, attack a platform that had Chinese management.
And then use it, by the way. There was this whole issue that I'm sorry to cut you off, but you remember that there was a thing during the Biden campaign, the Biden re-election campaign, April of 2023, during the whole TikTok debate. They said, we're not going to use TikTok. I'm currently battling against it as the president of the United States. There's lawsuits. There's the SCOTUS case. I'm not doing it. I don't want to touch it. Boom, July 2024. Don't get me wrong, right? It generated millions of followers, but clearly it didn't turn out to votes when Kamala Harris decided to run for president. And there was an idea that, like, this is how I get young people, or this is how I can win the youth. This is how I can win the vote. And to see that sort of flip-flop in 2 presidential campaigns in a year's time frame, by the way, as someone who uses TikTok, I will not apologize for that. The government already has all of my information. They know where to find me. They can give me a call if they would like.
They will.
Oh, they will. But that to me was just insane. That was absolutely insane that we were, I don't know if you guys saw this, but during, and I'm sorry to like run a little long here. When I was just moving in to my freshman dorm in UCF in Neptune, I was watching the House committee hearings of the Republican Congress people going, Chinese. I love the words they use. Communist. Is this a communist platform? Are you Chinese? What's your ethnicity? What kind of blood do you have? Like, they treat these people like they're just creatures, and they're cretins, and they're gross, and like they like to demean people. I remember that. I forgot the guy's name, the TikTok owner, but Senator, I'm Singaporean. Senator, I'm Singaporean. So like,
and those were
your head.
The Democrats opened up the doors to allow Republican congressmen to do that.
Correct.
But the end result was an even worse threat of a tech oligarch owning, managing, and now controlling, your location and censoring, your speech and selling all of your data to the government.
Like with Meta, absolutely.
So it's very, very scary. And I think it's a huge flop with regards to Democrats even coming to the table to understand how digital media plays a part in our elections. Absolutely. And how to get in front of where the youth even are and how to have a convincing message. Sometimes it breaks through. There's a lot of elected officials right now that are really breaking through. And I don't know if my algorithm's just like nerdy, which it probably is, but like Ro Khanna and I'm seeing Alyssa Slotkin and James Telrico. And
oh my God, I see him all the time.
I'm like seeing these elected officials that freaking know how to make a decent post and tell a decent, concise message that can really get at people. But again, the manosphere was paid for. They invested billions of dollars into funding these influencers to, manipulate algorithms. And Democrats don't seem to even play in that arena at all, let alone invest in their people that are doing the field on the groundwork.
Right.
And I think young people, even young people in politics, get really burnt out really fast because they're just kind of used as a door knocking machine and not really
or we're the
reinvested.
gateway to young people because, you have a young person on your campaign. This is how I win.
Then they won't even fund a freaking pizza party.
Right. I've got them in the bag. I hired my one young person. My quota is done.
Right. And so let's pretend we have infinite amount of resources.
Okay.
What would you tell like the DNCC right now?
What I would tell them is, I think this for years, they have been missing, like you were saying, the ground game. Like a lot of, I talk to people all the time and they're like, oh, well, they never show up at my door. Oh, like, when I can't afford my groceries, they're nowhere to be found. And I think a lot of what we've been seeing, since back the day, I was, a young kid at the time, but since like the days of Hillary Clinton's candidacies, from that point until now, we've been seeing like this, oh, well, Democrats are here, like we're showing up, but like you're showing up in my algorithm, but I mean, realistically, you can't communicate your policies. You can't tell me what you're doing to make my life cheaper. I mean, I'm still going to vote for you because the other side is proud to endorse a 34-count convicted felon for president. But it's the end of the day. It's where do we go from here? And like people have been saying for years, I don't feel represented. I feel neglected. They're doing all these things between Bernie and Hillary and Kamala and Joe Biden, and it's just, I feel like it's like a never ending cycle. So for me, what I would tell, I feel like the DCCC would just be like, get your act together. You are serving the people. You are not serving the billionaires. You are not serving, the influencer with 40. You're serving me. You're serving me. You're not serving the people with millions of followers on the internet. You're not serving people, who don't have to wake up and be like, damn, like I got clothes for the day. So for me, what I'm noticing a lot, especially in like the higher, and especially under the new DNC's leadership with Chairman Martin, who I do not know, but I've seen like we're happy to broadcast Democratic wins. We're happy to show that of what we're doing to make our Instagram platform more colorful and all of this, that, and the third. But we're not showing the policies that we had an opportunity for 4 years to demonstrate what we are doing. Mm-hmm. A lot of the policies that Joe Biden ran on failed. I mean, they just did. There's no way around it. He ran on so much progressive change. It would have made somebody's head explode had it all been real. But he realized for whatever reason, either he didn't want to do it, he thought he was going to lose votes, which he ended up anyway, or, the Senate and the House just couldn't get their act together and they decided to put, their profits and their donations and their donors over the people who are like us, who, might be scared that their heat won't turn on one day. So for me, it would honestly just be like, just show up. I mean, invest in people. God damn it. Just like show up. Show up to the people who want to know what you are doing to make their life better. And in return, I think they're going to see like people who are actually starting to care. Mm-hmm. I mean, it's really not that hard for me. I do have little experience in the field compared to other people. So obviously like my word is with a grain of salt here. But what I've been able to see in my year and a half of doing this kind of work is that, whether we win or lose elections, I've seen we've come damn near close, even if we haven't won. We have shown people what it's like when you have effective comms, when you listen to young people, when you understand where and what your donor dollars are doing to campaigns. Mm-hmm. I mean, we've come close with Miritana's election last year. Fantastic candidate, right? She had the young Dems. We were out door knocking, and we were sending out the emails, and we were. She didn't take funding from any of the no good, very bad people that we don't want in our system. She came within 200 votes of winning in a local city council election on a random Tuesday in November of 2025. That was insane to see that. Although, we didn't come as we didn't break the counter on that. We didn't break the ceiling, but we came damn near close. And I saw what it was like when you had effective, a really good strategy with comms, and when you had young people working your social media, because that is not just a tool to communicate and say like, well, I don't like it. It's not a tool to shit talk, or it's not a tool to it's not clickbait. It's what am I doing?
What's the actual policies you want to put in the bag?
Correct. What do you want to do? It's not about, it's not about what's my ChatGPT message about? Like, what is my, like, what gets the blood flowing on the internet? What's going to get the algorithm tons of likes? What are you doing? What are you doing?
What's the actual plan? And I think, especially for young men, we're in an affordability crisis right now. I can assume that each generation before, because I remember, I'm from the 90s. I'm a little older than him. Grunge rock was all about how our generation was the first generation to actually be less prosperous than the generation before. And so there was a lot of talk about allowing grunge rock to even be on the airwaves because it was a symbol of how angry the youth was. Well, now I feel like young men are just not even being communicated to a point where they're turning to these influencers and these echo chambers in order to have just some type of relief. And unfortunately, it's a slippery slope into white supremacy, because white supremacy loves to point at everybody else being the problem.
It's a scapegoat issue.
It's a scapegoat issue instead of being able to say, hey, you have options and I want to help build the future with you.
Right.
Zoran did a fantastic job at just narrowing down his message to some really basic policies. But when you listen to his actual interviews, which people think voters don't click those longer detailed interviews, and they do. I want to hear that you understand land use and zoning reform.
And that's someone who knows how to use an effective comms team, by the way. So if you want to talk about Alyssa Slotkin, James Tallarico, all of these politicians, maybe they started it before him, but I think we saw truly what it is like when you have an effective Democrat and a democratic socialist at that, by the way, audience, when you have someone who knows how to effectively run a comms team, but to also be a part of it. So he's not letting people speak for him. There's no voiceovers. This isn't a movie. It's not a Star Wars trailer. I love Star Wars, by the way. Don't cancel me on that. But it's not it was serious for him. Yes, it was fun, and it was the colors were nice, and it made you feel alive almost when you were looking at it. This is how it's done. So to prove, to just speak on that a little bit, that was, I think, a perfect example of what it's like when you have a campaign that knows how to get the ball rolling.
And I think that policy wise, I believe that right now, this is our moment where we can talk about corporate accountability.
Oh, absolutely.
Because part of the reason why Democrats don't hit the ball just on its head is because they're scared of disenfranchising their donors. And they say a lot of hollow words, about tackling student loan debt.
Right. Or ICE.
Yeah.
Or ICE.
Or ICE. And a lot of times these policies don't take it all the way, and I think everyone is past the point of desperation now that even Trump's little no tax on tips broke through. Yeah. But if Joe Biden was as handsome as Zoran and was able to be on social media, frankly, he could have done such a better job at advertising his wins, because, the Inflation Reduction Act had an incredible outcome in some of the more rural communities. It created
ours.
It created tons of jobs in renewable energy that were well-paying jobs that had.
And no one knows it.
And no one knows.
Or no one cares.
Where
they're past
those
the point
things
of caring.
happen. And I mean, towards the end of the election, I'm watching his social media before he dropped out, and I'm I'm barely seeing a post every couple days.
Or you're seeing the post, which is fun and it's meme worthy, but of him with the sunglasses, Dark Brandon. Come on, guys,
show
there's
us
more.
What you're
there's so
do.
much more.
If you're just going to sit there and be oh, I couldn't get the votes in Congress,
right?
I'm scared. Okay, there's a pro and a con right now. I think we have the best opportunity, because people are so pissed and they want relief so desperately. And they're seeing Trump is not delivering on all of his empty promises, that I think right now we have an opportunity to have a blue wave in the 2026 midterms. Great. However, what I'm afraid of is that even if we get the ball, even if we get our power back, even if we win a presidential election in 2028, Trump has been able, unlike anything anyone in my family has ever seen, been able to come in and take a baseball bat
and a blowtorch and light it up
and
demolish it
and do whatever the hell he wants.
Yep.
Like, even when Obama had, the House and the Senate,
a supermajority,
his own Democrats weren't letting him get away with his agenda.
Yep.
And so
we got Obamacare. That was where the buck stopped.
This is where I wonder, we kind of need a little bit more of a radical left person to come in and be like, oh, you want student loans? I'm giving everybody a $2,000 check.
Right.
And I'm going to give it until your student loan is paid back. Like, how come when Joe Biden's like, oh, it didn't work out. You relentlessly message on how you're finding a way to move the next needle in the next idea. And it just felt like every time he lost the student loan debt battle, it just kind of went silent and just disappeared. Like,
I lost the court.
Which
the court's been lost since Trump was president. So
pack that fucking court.
Exactly. Thank you.
If, Democrats want to fight over whether or not they should have been critical of Joe Biden, right? But they always say things like, oh, well, the risk of Trump was so astronomical that we really couldn't risk even looking like we weren't a united front. But they didn't want to go that hard on pushing Biden's agenda so that we even could have a win.
Correct.
Like, they wanted to go hard. They wanted to silence any opposition on our side and criticize you if you said anything bad about Joe Biden. Yeah. But they didn't want to fight for the things that he promised at the front end to even make it likely for him to win, which means that if they really took Trump seriously as a threat, they would have done the same baseball bat approach in breaking whatever needed to be broken to get those wins because he was such a risk.
Exactly.
And they needed to fucking deliver.
And I hate the argument, and I hear this not only from, people my age, but all the time. The argument and the idea that you hear people like Hakeem Jeffries and Chuck Schumer say, like, well, the idea was, it was just like, it just didn't get there for us. Like, we'll try and we'll see where it lands. But, the threat is just too great. Like, Trump is just like, oh, like, I'm a little scared. I hate that because you have Trump, who spent 2 years on the campaign trail, by the way, from the minute the midterms were called for the Democrats and for, we stopped it. We stopped it, right? We felt like for a little bit we had success there. That night, he announces at Mar-a-Lago that he's running for president, right? Everyone is shocked, right? The whole room is floored. The big party, all that, right? The jazz. From that night in 2022 to November 5th of 2024, Donald Trump spent however many days that is, he spent talking about electric sharks, Arnold Palmer's size, right? Like, do you understand? I wish I could speak to them directly and be like, the idea that he's such this big bad wolf and we can't talk about this, and we don't get to do this because we don't want to make the sheep run away. I hate it because Trump spent 2 years, even from the day he left office, the entire time that Joe Biden was president. Donald Trump spent every waking moment making sure that nobody ever forgot his name.
Right.
Nobody ever forgot it. Even when Joe Biden was president, Donald Trump made it his mission to dominate every single airwave he could of every day.
Yep.
And so we had the contrast of Joe Biden fell on Air Force One, right? Donald Trump just called for the execution of somebody he doesn't like because they breathe funny or they're disabled or they have some sort of thing that he doesn't like or that they said, like maybe the sky is purple. All of this, the duality is something I'll never understand because I think about Democratic leaders and what we could have done from the entire time Joe Biden was president up until now, even in the majority or the minority, what we could be doing, especially right now as we're in here, ICE is terrorizing our community all across the country. In Minneapolis, yes, and they murdered citizens of this country. They murdered American citizens. People have been disappeared. So, there are so many things that are just terrible. Oh, well, we need to stop ICE. We need to stop them. They vote for the fucking, they vote for the funding. They vote for the fucking funding bill, right? And so it's these kinds of things where I hate this message that Democrats portray of like, Democrats are fighting for you. Well, clearly you're not, because we had this whole idea for a short-lived 36 hours where Democrats were going to band together in the Senate and they were going to say, fuck this, we're not doing this, we're pulling the plug. Wow.
Well, a lot of that has to do with money, right?
Yeah.
Because part
absolutely.
of why Trump is able to get everyone to be in lockstep, at least for this long, we do have finally some Republicans that are breaking from his clutch.
Absolutely.
But part of the reason why, even through that time when Joe Biden was president, the reason why they've all fallen in line is because Trump has had such a massive backing financially that he's able to say, hey, if you don't follow me, I'm going to throw millions of dollars against you.
Everyone in Congress who voted to impeach him, by the way, they're all gone.
They're all gone.
And why are they all gone? They either decided to retire from Congress because they were afraid that the big bad wolf was going to knock their house down, which he did, or they spent millions of dollars with millions of donors and, millions of airwaves and airtime to, make them go away quietly.
And frankly, I think, I don't have the facts to back this statement, but you can kind of tell from the writing on the wall, either one of two things. The reason why 7 Democrats, fell out of line with the Democratic threshold is because they either have donors that are contractors that are making millions from the $1 billion, funding bills that are funding ICE that they don't want to disenfranchise, or they're not afraid of what the Democrats are going to do because the Democrats are broke and they can't primary them. And so they're not afraid, and frankly, they're not afraid of their voter base either. I don't know why. They should be.
Right.
But
we know the other side isn't. I mean, they'll do just about anything and no one bats an eye.
And this is where I think our opportunity comes in because, and when I say our opportunity, the progressives that are willing to speak out against the money and the corporate control. Absolutely. I have a lot of Democrat friends that say, well, you can't bring a knife to a gunfight. And it's like, yeah, but we don't need to spend as much money as we do on the same old way we've always done it. Kamala Harris had $1 billion and I barely saw her in a lot of the spaces where I know the youth's eyes are, but I definitely saw her with Republicans and Bill Clinton on the stage, Liz Cheney, and doing these huge showy, rallies that nobody really went to who's not already a convinced voter. But yet you see Bernie and AOC doing the Stop the Oligarchy tour in the deep, deep red precincts, going out and talking to people in their living room even.
Absolutely.
Or
who were just standing in the middle, I kid you not, the middle of a town square.
And this is the point you made. That whole time that Biden was in office and that whole time that the media apparatus was just bringing up Trump's name anytime he said or did any ridiculous thing.
And normalizing it, by the way. This wasn't the former president of the United States at that time has gone insane. Oh no, he just called for somebody's execution or someone's imprisonment on Twitter. Yeah. And it's fine because that's just the way it is. That's just how Trump behaves.
And it was everyone.
Hold your elected leaders accountable, people. This is ridiculous.
And I wish that there were way more Democrats during that whole time going out and selling those wins in the deepest, reddest, or most purple district.
Because that's who it benefits, by the way. That's what people don't understand, or that I guess I shouldn't say they don't understand. We as a party platform have failed to effectively communicate. Bernie Sanders went out to a rally in West Virginia. It was probably some musical auditorium, packed house. In West Virginia, which we have obviously neglected, of course, but West Virginia, the only Democrat they've elected is Joe Manchin, which we saw where that got us, right? So obviously, they're not very accustomed to having people who fight for them. But to see a United States senator in a state to which he is not a part of, go to a rally in West Virginia, you think to yourself, oh, we'll probably get 100 people. There were thousands of people waiting out the door. Yeah. People sat outside in the cold to hear this guy speak. That's how effective this. And by the way, I liked your point that you brought up about the donations and the deep red county. I don't know if you guys saw this, which probably not because I'm a nerd just like you, Lee. There was a Democrat in Texas in State Senate District 9 last night. I'm gonna flub his name. I think his name is Rehmet, Rehmet, who just won a Trump district, which has not been won in 35 years by a Democrat, against the Republican. Get ready for this. This will blow your socks off. The Democrat, who just won by 15 points last night, spent $200,000. That's it. They spent $200,000, which is a lot, right? But it's for a campaign. That's nothing. That's pennies and bread and butter. The Republican who was trying to defeat him spent $2.4 million. That's a tenth. That's a tenth of what he had going up against him. That was nothing. And we won a 15-point victory. Because when you invest in local candidates, not just financially, but when you look people in the eye and say, like, I understand what you're feeling, this is what I'm going to do to help solve the problem that you and I are both struggling from. This is what happens when you have Democratic candidates, especially local, because those are, do not forget this, audience, they are the most important version of candidates. When you have local candidates who are willing to not only say, I'm not going to take any corporate donations, which I do not know this man, so, don't take my word for it. It's not solid fact. But it's safe to assume when you have a candidate who not only says, I'm not going to take corporate donations, or, I'm not going to be beholden to, let's say, the utilities, whatever, hint there. But when you say you have a candidate who's not going to do this, but when they also look at you and say, I understand what you're going through, like, this is what we can do together. This is not just a process that I'm going to shield you from, and I'm in office, I'm behind closed doors, I'll see you in 2 years when I need your vote again. When you have people who are not maybe politicians by nature, but maybe even some who are, but who understand the effective benefit of communicating with your constituents directly, and not just like saying, well, it was a little scary, I didn't feel like it. When you have people that believe in you, and when you believe in yourself, not only as a politician with millions at your back, but when you have people who believe in you, and you have a system that that works. And regardless, this is how I feel every election should be fought. When you have candidates in solid blue states who have like these easy wins, right? That they're taking corporate PAC money, especially APAC money. You get the whole vibe, right? They spend millions, they win by 30 points. And then it's the same issue, though. The issue doesn't change whether you're in a plus 30 Democratic state or Democratic district versus when you're in Ron DeSantis plus 22 area. The issue is the same. It's not like the issue doesn't change because the Democrat won by 30 points and then Ron DeSantis wins by 20. The math doesn't math on that. It's the same issue that people are going through in California, in Minnesota, in Iowa, in Illinois, in Florida, in West Virginia, in Vermont. It's the same copy and paste issue. But what depends on when you have people like Zohran Mamdani in New York, who are saying, right, I understand that I personally as a citizen cannot make your life better. Here's what I can do as the mayor of New York City in simply lowering the rent, freezing housing costs. Here's what I can do to make City Hall structurally better. That's what people want. They don't want this whole grand pony show of well, I'm the only one to beat this person, or I've been here for 30 years. Well, 30 years later, here we are. Same issue, same fact, same people struggling, different generation. So that issue of being aware of not only what they're doing, but who they're taking their funding from and why, I think is a major issue. And I think is also a major resolving point of how we can get our party back on track.
Well, we're in Central Florida, and we have a decent blue bubble.
Could be better, but
not everybody is progressive. Not everybody refuses some of those special interest dollars.
Of course.
But we definitely do have an opportunity here, because out of the top 10 most flippable districts statewide, state level, House and Senate districts, 6 of them are in Central Florida. So I really want young people to understand that if you hate bills like the Don't Say Gay bill, if you hate that we can't freeze the rent like we tried to and succeeded in doing here in Orange County in 2022 because the state legislature preempted us the next session, if you want public transportation that's fast and rapid, the only way we're going to be able to do that is if we stop the supermajority at the state legislature.
Right.
But the candidates that we want to lead us can't afford to have the entire apparatus that a Republican
party infrastructure
has. Well, there is no party infrastructure in Florida, unfortunately, for Democrats. But
truth,
they need people. They need, even more than donations, because donations are great and you can buy nice things like texting or mailers and literature, whatever. But the people power to physically knock on those doors, physically make the calls, physically host fundraisers or meet and greets,
absolutely,
and just text people in your phone to come out and support these candidates goes so far where we could win. And when I say most flippable, it means that they're like purple districts that are currently being held by Republicans that are absentee. You know, Susan Placencia in House District 37 and Erica
Who represents
Booth.
me, by the way. She's my state representative, if you guys would like to know.
Well, don't try to get a meeting with her because she kicks out. She doesn't open the door for you.
She didn't even show up to her own committees in the House, by the way. I don't know if you know that, but I was in Tallahassee back in December, and I was in a committee meeting as they were voting on another horrid rancid bill to lower the age to buy a gun back to 18, which the Republicans agreed to do the reverse after Parkland. So this is once again, this is the issue of, well, now we can stop with the, I Care Act, and we can actually do what we want and, do all this crazy shit. But her name was called in that committee 3 times. And she was not even in the room. It's not like she was on her phone or she was calling her kid or whatever. She was not there.
Yeah. In
a committee that she is part of the supermajority. She refused to show up to a committee that her party, her platform, her voice has control over.
Yeah.
So if you want to talk about Republicans, maybe they're just like they think they're better than us and all this stuff because they get stuff done and they win. They don't show up. They don't care. That's the bottom line. This isn't about they're like this rancid evil. They don't care about us at all. They never have. But now that they have a supermajority, well, they have had it for some time. But now that they have the governor's mansion, and now that they've proven that they can win massive wins because of things like gerrymandering, because of things like corporate funding, because of things like massive Democratic neglect in our state. Now that they've proven that they can have a platform without actually knocking on your door and telling you that, hey, I'm voting on this really bad bill that's going to affect you, my constituent who makes $30,000 a year, really terrible, and you're not going to even be able to vote for me because I've already picked my voters. I've already gotten to choose who I want to vote for me. Mm-hmm. That's an issue. That is an issue that we as a party, we as organizers need to be talking about more. Is not the fact that, not even the fact that we can't get stuff done, which we can't, by the way, as a party infrastructure, like you mentioned, we simply cannot. Republicans can. They have the power to make your gas cheaper, your groceries better. They have the power to do things that you could not even imagine because they've never opened your eyes to it, and nonetheless theirs.
Well, that's very impressive. So what are 2 things? I want to ask you a good thing and a bad thing. Okay. What is something you don't want to see in 2026 happen that always happens?
Yeah.
And what is something that you're excited to see people gravitate towards in order to get us to win in 2026?
So this is actually a great question. I love this question. One thing I do not want to see in 2026 is this. We have so much energy right now towards things like people, rightfully so, being against the Gestapo, commonly known as ICE, by the way. You have people who are understanding we're past year 1. This has been a year of the second Trump administration. Day 1, don't forget, people. Day 1, he said, I'm making things cheaper. I'm signing with the big fat Sharpie that you can't read. All of these things that are going to be better and better. We're going to build back better. We're going to make America great. It's not great, okay? We have people getting kidnapped on the streets. We have all of these things, just terrible things happening. People are understanding now, after all of the incredible work that organizers have done to get people to wake the fuck up and pay attention on things like social media platforms, because that is unfortunately how we see most of our modern media. It doesn't come through CNN. Thank God it doesn't come through most of Fox News. We are seeing it in platforms like the 19th, like Sunrise, like all of these local and people-powered organizations. So what I don't want to see in 2026 is we have so much energy to really make an effective blue wave to something that I don't think we've ever seen before. We've never had this much circumstance to be relevant like we have right now for the worst reasons imaginable. This is our moment. So what I don't want to see is we wake up the day after the midterms, what is that, November 4th, 2026, and I don't want to see all these Democrats who we've helped get elected, not even in Florida, just across the nation, right? House, Senate, governors, lieutenant governors, attorneys general, all of them. I do not want to wake up the day after the midterms happen and then see them walking back all of their promises and doing all of this shit that they know is going to cost them so much when people are, again, asking them for help or asking why they haven't done things. So I do not want to see a blue wave turn into like this little fizzle and then boom, we're gone. And then next thing you know, it's 28 and we've done nothing.
And we have a worse Republican running worse than JD Vance. Like,
right.
I really believe that Tucker Carlson or someone worse is going to run.
Yeah.
and could
Exactly.
do more damage because they're more cunning and more like articulate.
And they're more audience based. They're not political. Like JD Vance, for whatever it's worth, is a politician. He says the story, does the song and dance.
Yeah, West Virginia doesn't resonate with him, but
Correct.
they do Tucker.
Exactly. But people like Tucker Carlson, they absolutely do resonate with people who are not politically engaged, who don't even know what this podcast is. So absolutely, that just terrifies me, is seeing so much Democratic promise and like understanding that we can take our party back from the special interest, from these 90-year-old politicians who are still in office, who just refuse to let free of power and just like, God damn it, let somebody else lead for once, right? So I don't want to see that. That's something I do not want to see in 2026, is waking up the next day and regretting my vote or regretting why we even did all of this work, because this has been a years-long process, right, guys? Since 2024. One thing I do want to see, was it in 2028 or 2026? 26. So one thing I do want to see is primaries. Primary. I want to see people all across the board look at their politicians, see where they get their funding from and how long they've been in office. I want them primaried. I want to see all of them. I want to see people who made false promises. I want to see these people who go up on stages and say, I've been here for 15 years. Trust me, I know what I'm doing. I want them to answer for what they've done. I really do. And this is for Democrats. This is especially for Republicans, because the fact that they can't even go to their own town halls without getting booed in the first 15 seconds is insane and should really scare them. But that is something I want to see, absolutely, is I want to see primaries have a more effective role in how our government chooses its leaders and how we choose the people that we want to represent us. Because this idea that, and this is fact, like once politicians get into office, 90% of the House of Representatives, the U.S. House of Representatives, is not competitive. The 10% is in, are areas where I feel are neglected, or areas where I feel like we pay attention to the race and then the issue just, everything else disappears once the election is over. So what I do want to see in 26, which I think really we should bring back, because it's just borderline competitive, and it's nice to like not like see a struggle. Like, why do you want my vote? Why should I give it to you? Why should I believe in your platform and not this guy's? What I am seeing, and this is all across the board, but especially in places with solid Democratic incumbencies, Kad Abu-Ghazaleh, Dylan Blaha, I think his name is, but like people like even in Florida, these Democrats who are running really progressive campaigns in districts they maybe know that they don't really have a shot in, but the wind is here. Like the time is now. So what I want to bring back in 2026 and in 2028, this is key here, is primaries, because this is the most effective solution to the whole I don't want to vote, my vote doesn't count, the politicians. Vote them the fuck out. Like, vote them the fuck out. These people who are running fabulous campaigns, whether or not they have a social media platform, they are working and they are going to ICE protests, but they're saying there's beyond protesting, there's mutual aid campaigns, and there's these emails with resources. Like, that's what I want to see in 26. Although our state, I have to say, is not competitive anymore, it is so refreshing to see people locally in our state, but also all across the country, who are like, I'm a doctor. Like, I was a grocer. Like, why am I here? I'm here because of us, because we want them there, because we want people with lived experience, with people who, don't carry a famous last name or a $3 million check from APAC or the freaking defense contracting industry. We want to see people who know how to make change because they've done it in their lives outside of the political, behind the closed doors, the schmoozing scene. So that's what I want to see. I want to see in 2026 and in 2028, I want to see primaries. What I don't want to see in 2026 is this BS, this facade that we were sold to vote for, and then all of a sudden the promises that we want is gone. That's it.
It could cause way more damage in the long term.
Exactly.
We have to have some serious wins. I mean, it's just like Zoran right now. Everybody's like, if he doesn't come through on some of his promises, people are going to, be like, see, I told you so. And it's like, why doesn't anybody do that for Republicans?
Right.
Because
it's also, guys, it's been a month. Like, yeah, it's been 1 month.
I know. Okay. So
to the day.
The last question that I ask everybody that comes on the podcast is, it's going to be a busy year.
Absolutely.
How do you replenish yourself when you're go into all these political events? Obviously, you're also in school and you're trying to have social time, but like, how do you refill your cup so that you don't get like burnt out?
So for me, just as myself, I'm a very like social person. I can get shy around strangers, I must admit, but I'm a very social person. I think a really like great, really great different friend groups. I don't know if you guys have ever experienced this, but like I have one for my RAs at UCF. I have one for my school friends. I have one for my friends back home. I have one from other jobs that I've had, other organizing spheres, people with the OC Dems, people with the Progressive Caucus. I have all these different friend groups, and it's almost like a little like a pick and choose. Like I get to do, like I can do this with this day, I can't do this day. But like I love hanging out with my friends. And I think it's so important because we are living in such a isolated like point in time where it's like everything you see on social media is doom scroll. Politicians can't take corporate accountability, you know, more bombs sent to Israel. Like it's always like the bad. But like that's how I like to replenish myself, is because I think my time is valuable. And so why would I spend it on things I don't enjoy? I love organizing. This industry can be a little brutal sometimes, I can't lie, especially after, you know, a defeat of a certain candidate or a policy. But why I find time for myself is just because I like to like have fun. Like I like to hang out with my friends. I like to go to, new places. I love going to the theme parks. It's expensive, don't get me wrong. It just brings such a joy to my face. You don't even know, Lee. But for me, it's like such a simple thing, because like there's no like secret trick for me. It really is just like hanging out with my friends, even if we're literally just going grocery shopping. I love to be social, and I love my mom. So sometimes I made it my mission.
I knew you were a mama's boy.
Yes, to my core. But one thing I made it my mission to do this semester was because last semester, it just between all the politics and like my job on campus and school, because fall semester kicked my ass, guys. It's just spend more time with my mom. Like I don't like going back to Brevard, if I'm being truthful, which my mother knows. It's just always negative, and like I didn't have a lot of friends there. Like it's where I live, especially in Brevard, it's a much more senior community. So there's not a lot of friends to begin with, and then you see like the Randy Fine signs on the side of the road, and you're like, yeah, I don't want to come back here. But I made it my mission to spend more time with my mom. So for me, it's just making more me time with my friends, because I feel like a lot of this work is so draining. So that's me. And throughout this time, hopefully throughout election season, I will say like, I did the damn thing and like we got it done. But then I can look back on my personal life and sort of how I've been able to grow, because I don't know yet. It's only February 1st. But I would like to like see that I did it. Like I went with my friends. I did the thing maybe, I don't have time for that. Like I'm busy. I want to like do it. I don't know. That's my New Year's resolution, is like, just do it.
Well, I'm very proud of you, because I unfortunately sacrifice a lot of time with my friends. But when you take your friends on a little friend date,
it's fun.
Especially over the holiday, I took all my friends on a little friend date, and I said, I'm not going to be seen or heard a lot from this year because it's an election year, but just know that I love you and let me spoil you now.
Exactly.
Yeah. But I'm so proud of you, and I love seeing you grow. I had no idea you were 19. I thought you were like 25. So that means that you're going to grow up really fast, and soon you're going to be our senator, which I'm so excited to see.
No corporate donations. Hold me to that right now while I'm on video. Not a damn one.
I will. And just, just thank you so much. And thank you for inspiring people.
Yes. And honestly, like this truly is how we win. Before we end, like I do want to say this. This is not the Joe Rogan show. I don't know if you've ever seen the I've Had It podcast. Mm-hmm. Holy shit, Lee. I love them. I think they're so fun. And they didn't start out as a political podcast, by the way. That's how long I've been following them. They started out as like this two moms in like a studio in Oklahoma. And it was like Had It or Hit It, like headbands. Okay. And they were like, and then they knew, like they met the moment. So for me, like seeing that grow, and like something I just saw online one time, literally on TikTok, right? Seeing that happen, and then seeing all of these amazing people that you interview has really just been inspiring. So I do want to leave you with a takeaway here, is like, do not stop this. Like this is something that I find valuable as a viewer, as someone who has seen the work that you've done with Commissioner Semrad on your own with these incredible campaigns, with these elected officials. But this will not be the last that we see of each other. I promise you that.
Yeah, I'll have to have you come back on for a special segment to respond to some of the terrible legislation that's coming.
Oh, believe me, you can have my response, and then hopefully you'll have my response as the senator if you'd like.
Okay, I have a through line when you finally get into elected office.
Yes.
I will say that, I just want people to understand that if we ever want to win the presidential election again, and
make effective change.
We cannot give up on Florida.
Right.
That's why this podcast exists. Not because I ever thought I was going to actually get any viewers or get any listeners.
Or because you got a really nice wall.
It's because like the people like you, the people that are fresh on the political scene, that are in this sea of red, just 30 minutes away from the core of Orlando.
Yeah.
And you're probably thinking to yourself, I should leave if I want to get serious in a career of politics.
Yeah.
I thought if I start a podcast and I can spotlight some of the good, then maybe we can retain some of those people that would otherwise feel kind of lost in Florida.
Yeah.
And my dream is that as Democrats nationwide are starting to look at how we can make gains, they say, let's consider Florida again.
Right.
And then they'll find this podcast and they'll say, let's invest some money into this lady because she's actually like convincing people she has a good audience.
Right.
And by that point, we would have flipped House District 37, 35, Senate District 10, House District 39. Thank God.
And that's also my mission. My little personal goal is to get Jane Amon elected my next state representative, because I want someone who shows up, who keeps true to their word, and who I don't have to think, damn, are they in committee today or did they just like decide not to? Oh, and who answers their emails and has office hours in an actual office. That would be fantastic.
Yeah, isn't that a dream?
Yes. And who's a teacher, by the way. She's a professor at UCF. Great woman, great background. I love it. And teachers, we need more of them in elected office too, because we've seen what happens when we neglect them in all this policy stuff, especially in Florida, where we like to make these big grandstands against, these teachers making 40 grand a year.
I think she was episode 10, so go back and watch episode.
It was really good. I saw it. But like, I want people to like realize that Florida, especially Central Florida, like we are like such a bastion, not only of hopefully like democratic and progressive promise, but we are like such a hub for like what happens here. Like we are literally in the center of the state. We are like we're like the crux of everything, even though we are quite literally like the meat in the middle point for I feel like a lot of people. And like to see like a lot of these more national venues and events and organizers like choose to like bring their events to us, I feel like keeps showing continued promise in like what we can do, not only as like a region, but as a state too. Like we have so much infrastructure that has been untapped, and we've seen that like obviously the state Democratic Party is just not meeting the mark, and it hasn't been for a minute. But like people like us who are doing this podcast and who are investing in elected officials and who are, well, not elected officials, and investing in making sure that they, are elected officials who do something. But it's this kind of thing that I think has such a domino effect on how we're going to see Florida hopefully change in 26 and in 2028. But even just beyond that, as like more of a state where like everyone's voice is heard. Like we've heard like such a one-sided dominant voice since I've been a kid. Like this is not like a new thing. This didn't pop up yesterday. Since I was in middle school, like I've been hearing the same voices on the news. Rick Scott, Ron DeSantis, all of these like really just nasty people. Corrupt. Right. Thank you. And Rick Scott, largest Medicaid scam in history, which is crazy. But like they're just corrupt but they don't go away. So like in 2026, what I hope to see more of is just like new faces and like new airwaves and like just fresh perspectives. I'm just getting tired of it. So this is such an important thing for us to do. So I just can't wait to call it a day and be ready for some new representation across the board. You sound like you're making your own case for why you should run. Not my own case yet. I will say to keep you on suspense, but well, thank you so much for joining, and we'll see you at the next one, you guys. Thank you. Thank you for listening. Thank you so much for watching. If you like what you heard today, please comment, subscribe, and share. And visit organizingtovictory.com so that you can learn more about all the ways that we're going to be organizing this year. It is the most important election year of our lives. I know you hear that all the time, but we here at Organizing to Victory hope to not just talk about the issues, but to organize around the issues. So please share, subscribe, and follow us. And we'll see you on the next one. Thank you.